Figure it out. Sing along.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to PI and BI. It's such an honor and pleasure to have everybody here this evening. We know that you have lots you could be doing here on a Sunday evening, and we don't take it for granted. We know that you've taken your Sunday evening out to devote to your spirituality, and you should know that the Almighty appreciates that, and we appreciate that, and it's an honor and pleasure, and we have quite a program in store for you this evening. So stay tuned. Here's Rabbanit.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Very excited about this evening. So last time we talked at our 10th anniversary, we were going to discuss the prophets, right? The prophets and the writings of the Torah. We have the Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and so we were going to focus on the ones we don't always spend time on. Last time we looked at the book of Joshua, of Yehoshua, and that book is pretty much after the period when Moshe took the Jewish people out of Egypt. He brings them up to the land of Israel, passes over leadership position to Joshua, to Yehoshua, and he brings them into the land. And the book of Joshua pretty much covers the conquest of the land of Israel. Now we're up to the part of the period of the Judges, the book of Shoftim. So this is about 13 BCE, so we're talking over 3,000 years ago. So we have the first judge who Joshua dies, Osniel takes over, has 80 years of great leadership. The Jews go, there's like sort of, in Alberta terms, booms and busts. There's lows and highs, and unfortunately, to this evening. So the next session of PI and BI, we're going to be discussing the book of Shoftim. But this evening, in particular, we're going to be talking about the time of Ehud, who was the next judge after Osniel. The rabbi will be discussing disabilities during that time period, and I will be discussing women leadership during the time of Devorah the prophetess. But before we go into that, we're going to go back to Rabbi Glatt with his music and follow up with Michael and his company. So, very excited about it this evening. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. It is a great honor to be here in front of all of you, and I am really excited for a great evening. I am not a singer. I am more of a conductor. Basically, I'm running a choir, and you're the choir. So if you figure out the song, there's going to be some slow, some fast. We're going to be clapping. We're going to be singing. We're going to be getting up if you're brave. But the idea is, if you can pick up on the words, please join along with me. I would love that. Drown me out. That would be even better. This next song that we're going to sing over here, it's actually a song that was written by a friend of mine. We grew up together. It's a little bit of a sobering song, but it's a song which offers hope and encouragement. It was written by a man and his sister, and they performed it for their mother right before she passed of a terminal illness. And the idea behind the song is that no matter what the situation is, no matter how dire it may seem, no matter how alone we may think we are, God is always there. And we should never be afraid, because God is always there to protect us. God is always there, no matter how dire the situation may seem. God is always there to pick us up. And this song is also going to pick us up. Now, the lyrics are in Hebrew, and I'm going to try. So please bear with me. Everyone, we need your hands, we need your voices. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
So the OU recently had a convention over the December break. It was a policy convention where they discussed different issues that faces the Jewish community. And one of the hot topic discussion was bringing women to the communal leadership table. When I saw this, I said, wait a minute. If women were never at the communal leadership table, then how could the OU, the Orthodox Union, bring this up as a new policy? We know the Torah doesn't change with time. What are they thinking? So I told you I was going to discuss the period during Devorah the prophetess.
Although the children of Israel had conquered much of the land, the Canaanites oppressed them, and the general Sisera continued to march forward. No one person had taken it upon themselves to defeat Sisera. For who could? Not just any random citizen.
Who are you calling random?
But could a general? Or a prophet?
Barak,
What is it this time?
you must take 10,000 men to the Kishon River, where you will find Sisera and his army. God will deliver him into your hands.
Sisera. Have you seen his army? Iron chariots. What do we have compared to that?
God?
Okay. We'll go. But only if you come with us.
I'll come along, but know this. The victory will not belong to you. People will say that a woman defeated Sisera. Rise! This is the day that God gives Sisera into your hands.
Every last one of the Canaanites was destroyed, except one.
I gotta get out of here.
Exhausted, Sisera arrived at a random citizen's tent, looking for help.
I'm not random. I have a stake in this matter.
Heva, I need help.
My husband's not home. What's wrong?
The battle. The Israelites are decimating us. Tell your husband we need his help. It's time for you to choose sides.
Oh, we've chosen sides.
We're just letting him get away?
He won't get away.
I thought you
I
would.
said a woman would finish him. I didn't say it would be me.
Thanks for letting me hide here.
Shh. Just get some sleep.
I just thank you for the milk. If anyone comes to your tent and asks if there's a man here, you must say there is no one.
And so, because of one random citizen, with the incredible act by the amazing Yael, the land was at peace for 40 years, until the Israelites started sinning again, lost God's favor, got conquered, turned back to God, and started the cycle of judges all over again in Gideon versus the Midianites.
So we know Devorah, the prophetess, sat under a palm tree. People far and wide came to seek counsel, seek judgment. They came for personal advice, spiritual advice. She was the leader of the generation. So let's look at who Devorah was as a leader. So she was described as many different things, as the judge, the prophetess. I want to look at 4 different characteristics of Devorah. We're going to look at the successful leader, the challenger, the woman, and the mother. So when I took my MBA, we had a leadership skills course, and we used the book Level 3 Leadership by James Clausen. And in his book, he writes 3 criteria that make a leader successful. He says, first, you have to have a vision of what needs to be done. And then once you know what needs to be done, you need to have the understanding of how to do it. You need to know how to do it. And thirdly, you need to have the courage to implement it. That's what makes a successful leader. Devorah had all these 3 things. She had the vision. Not only did she have the vision, she had the divine vision. She merited to get the Ruach HaKodesh from Hashem to tell her exactly what to do, to stand up and fight the Canaanites. She had the understanding. She knew how to do it. She told Barak to go on Mount Tabor, which is a very strategic advantage, being on top of the mountain, your enemies below, a great strategy for success. And finally, Thirdly, she had the courage, and boy did she have the courage. You have to understand, the Jewish people were at a very low of their lives, right? They had 80 years of good life, and then suddenly these Canaanites come and oppress them for 20 years. They had left the ways of God. They had left the ways of Torah. They said there was no hope. That's it. They were doomed. And here Devorah comes and tells them, you have to go out, tells Barak to go gather the people on this mountain, and you're going to win this war. You have to have a lot of courage to tell these people to do this, and that God is going to be on your side. And she did, and with great success. So what makes her unique? What makes women leadership unique? So let's go back to their creation. So when we look at where Eve was created, when Eve was created, she was referred to as the Ezer Kenegdo, right? Woman was created to be, what we translate in English, a helper against, a helper corresponding to her male counterpart. So what does that mean? It sounds like an oxymoron. Is she supposed to be a helper for her male counterpart, or is she supposed to be against him, to work in competition with him? And as I look through the history of Jewish women, we see they were actually that. They were actually a helper against. We look at Sarah, the first Jewess, right? She went up against Avraham. She went up and demanded that Hagar and Ishmael be sent away from their home. Avraham didn't know what to do. How could she request that from me? He turns to God, and what does God tell him? Listen to your wife. Listen to the voice of Sarah. She knows what she's talking about. And so it seems like Sarah went up against Avraham, but in order to help him, in order for him to be able to continue his legacy, to be able to continue to pass on monotheism to his son, Isaac, without any bad influence. And we see it with Rebekah as well. She deceived her husband, Isaac, when she switched her son, Jacob, for the blessing to the right son, so that once again, the legacy can continue. So we see this throughout history, how women seem to challenge their male counterpart in order to make them a better person, in order to help them become the better them. And we see here with Devorah as well. We see Devorah challenges Barak to go to battle. He didn't want to go. He's like, these people are not going to listen to me. They're at a low. They left God. Why should they? They're going to believe that God is going to help them now. But Devorah challenges Barak to say, go ahead, gather the Jewish people, and they're going to follow you. And he goes ahead and does that. So we know Devorah was the greatest female leader of all time. Devorah was to the ancient Israelites as Golda Meir was to the modern state of Israel, as Margaret Thatcher was to Great Britain, as Hillary Clinton will be to the United States of America. So the greatest female leader we have here, and yet, what does she declare? She declares, blessed above all women is Yael. Who is Yael? As we know, she's not some random woman. Yael was a woman of the tent. She was a stay-home mom. She was a homemaker. And what did she do? She saw the battle was being fought by men, right? She said, what can I do as a woman to help the battle for the Jewish people? So what did she do? She sees Sisera, and she uses her femininity. She says, come on in. Come inside the tent. I'll take care of you. He asks for water. I'll give you warm milk. She gives him a bed. She comforts him. She puts him to sleep. And as we know, she wins the war. Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook, in her book Lean In, she writes how she goes to her first meeting with the big head honchos in the private equity firm in Manhattan, and she's there, doing her pitch, and then suddenly, they ask for a break, and she excuses herself. She goes, "Oh, do you know where the ladies' room is?" And the head guy of the private equity firm looks at her and says, "I don't know. Do we even have one?" And she looks at him. She says, "What? How could you not have a women's restroom? How do you expect us to move up in the company if we can't have our own toilets?" She continued on another story where she had her time at Google. They were just a startup company, and there were hundreds of employees, and they were still dealing with the parking lot situation, She's like about 8, 9 months pregnant, and she's having terrible morning sickness. She has a meeting to get to. She comes to the company. She drives in, and she doesn't find a spot. She finds a spot all the way at the end of the parking lot. She's waddling along, hoping to make the meeting, and then suddenly she's like, I don't understand this. Supermarkets have special spots for pregnant women. Malls do. Why don't companies have special spots for pregnant women? I don't get it. If they want us to move up in the world, they have to make it possible for us. They have to recognize the difference instead of ignoring the differences. We have to embrace the differences that we have and transcend them. And this is what Yael does. Yael recognizes the difference. She recognizes she's a woman, and yet she embraces her femininity for the sake of God, to save the Jewish people. At the end of the victory, we have Devorah composing a beautiful song, Shiras Devorah. And in it, she basically deconstructs the battle, and she sings how the Jewish people, how she told Barak to gather Jewish people to fight against Sisera, and how he was they were up at the mountain, and Sisera comes with all his iron chariots and all his army, and how they were all confused, and he got so scared he saw that he was losing the battle, so he runs off, and he sees Yael, and Yael does what she needs to do to win the battle. But I want to read you a verse that is so, I think, the most powerful verse in this song. Through the window, the mother of Sisera looked forth and peered through the window. Why is his chariot late in coming? Why tarry the strides of his chariots? The wisest of his princes answer her. She too returns answers to herself. Are they not finding and dividing the spoils? A damsel, 2 damsels to every man, a spoil of dyed garments to Sisera, a spoil of dyed garments of embroidery for the neck of the spoiler. You know, feminist political analysts discuss the effect of war on individuals. They came up with this new idea. They tell the political analysts, they said, you know, before you always discussed the effect on war, it was always about borders and security. Now the feminists come along and say, what about the individual people? What about the women and the children that the war affects? But this is not a new concept. Devorah, over 3,000 years ago, is discussing the effect of individuals. This is not a new concept. We have the caring and the sympathy that she has towards. She knows that that Sisera needed to be killed, but yet she realizes that there was a loss of life, and she's caring for that mother who lost her son. We have a modern day mother of Israel. You know, this past summer, 3 boys went missing. One of them, Naftali Frankel. And we had a big campaign, Bring Back Our Boys, trying to find them. And unfortunately, they were killed and thrown off to the side of the road. Can you imagine the devastation? We felt it. Can you imagine the parents felt, the mothers? And unfortunately, some Israelis retaliated and killed a Palestinian boy. And what did this Racheli Frankel do? She was in mourning. She had just lost her own child. She went to visit and comfort the mother of the Palestinian boy that was just murdered himself. That is women leadership. So women leaders in the communal leadership has always existed. It's not a new concept. I'm waiting for the video to come out in the OU convention to see exactly what they discussed. But what makes women leadership unique is that they embrace their femininity. They recognize the differences to make a positive change. And each one of them is unique. I want to tell you a story about a certain Rebbitzin in town. Every Wednesday, she makes about 4 dozen rolls of challah for the Israelis in the kiosks at West Edmonton Mall. and she delivers them herself. She makes them by hand and delivers them herself. She doesn't want it to be known, so not too many people know about this. And it's not that she has all the time in the world, right? She has quite a few kids and teaches as well. But she feels it's her duty to bring those challahs to the Israelis. And let me tell you, those Israelis are never going to forget that Rebbitzin who gave them challahs for Shabbos. I think that that Rebbitzin will have more of an impact on the Israelis for that challah more than any rabbi or Rebbitzin who gave them a shiur. But we know that the Torah is not, everything in the Torah is written there for a reason, right? We know that Torah comes from the word hara'ah, a lesson. Devorah's and Yael's leadership is not just for the women, it's for the men as well. Everybody can learn from their leadership. One, we have to remember to have the courage to implement the change. Everybody, you all have some great idea, a new invention, a new business venture, and even know how to do it. Something to bring to the shul, to make the shul better, to make the community better. But many of you don't have the courage, right? We have excuses, we don't have enough time, we don't have the money to invest, we don't have the confidence. But you all have it in you. You all can learn from Devorah and Yael to stand up and have the courage to make it happen. Because if there was an office where everybody could bring their ideas to and get paid for it, everybody would be rich. It takes effort and it takes hard work to make your idea come true. Secondly, challenge the people in your life to make them be their ezer kenegdo. This works both ways. It's not only why women were created. And when someone challenges you, you ask yourself, take a look at yourself and say, why is my spouse telling me this? Maybe I'm supposed to be that. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking as much. Maybe I shouldn't be working as hard. Or my boss challenging me on a certain project. Or even your children. Thirdly, embrace your individuality. Women and men are different, but each one of you is different. Each one of you is physically, psychologically, emotionally different. Each one of you have a different talent and skill. Find out what that is and make a positive change to it. And finally, do it with love and sympathy. We can all learn from Devorah and Yael. We can all have the courage. We can all challenge the people in our lives and be challenged. And we should embrace our individuality and do it with love for yourselves, for your family, for your community, and for the world at large. Thank you.
probably the biggest recipients of God's benevolence and graciousness in the history of our people, were our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We turn to God and we say we may not have their merits, but we are their children. We can maybe turn a blind eye to all our shortcomings, and please extend to us that same graciousness that you extended to them. We need hands on this one. This is a good one. 1, 2, 3, go!
I want to start with an oldie but goodie. I've got this friend, Vince McConnor, who has been asking me for ages. He wants to join. You all know we have in Edmonton, we have an exclusive Jewish country club. So he says, Rabbi, I want to be part of that Jewish country club. I says, Vince, you can't be part of the Jewish country club. You're not Jewish. But he's been begging and cajoling me, and eventually I said to him, fine. You know what? You can pass yourself off as Jewish, but you're going to have to assume a Jewish identity. So henceforth, you are not Vince McConnor. You are Moshe Goldberg. And when they ask you, what do? Tell them you're in manufacturing. And when they ask you what you manufacture, tell them you manufacture taluses. He said, fine, no problem. Vince, aka Moshe Goldberg, goes to the Jewish Country Club. He's standing on the golf course. It's one of those 3 weeks of the year that you can actually golf here in Edmonton. And he's ready to tee off. The fellow comes up to me and says, Shalom Aleichem. Haven't seen you around here before. Who are you? He says, my name is Moshe Goldberg. He says, oh yeah? Great. Well, what do you do? He says, I'm in manufacturing. Wow, me too. I'm also in manufacturing. What do you manufacture? He says, I manufacture taluses. He says, wow, it's my lucky day. I got to tell you, I've been bothered for the longest time. What is the meaning of the Hebrew writing on the back of the talus? And without missing a beat, Vince McConnor, aka Moshe Goldberg, says, I'm sorry, I only make the sleeves. Tonight, my presentation will be beginning with a video that is currently being broadcast at the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum. Rabbanit and I were recently in Toronto for President Stan and Rosemary's son Mark's marriage to Andrea, beautiful wedding. We got to visit the ROM, and this video was showing.
Turn the other way, look around. Something big's about to happen.
Batya, Mario, Jasmin, hallo. Alex. Urs. Urs. Hinter dir steht eine Herrenfigur, so wie sie eingesetzt wird, tatsächlich. Und nehmen jetzt all die Maße an, die wir brauchen zur Herstellung, wo es abweicht, damit wir sie wiederum produzieren bzw. modellieren und bauen können. Dieses Maß ist immer fixiert.
Ich denke, es ist auch ziemlich schwierig, um das genau nachzumachen.
Es fehlen 35.
Richtig hochsportlich machen. Wie war das mit der Fußform der 10 Formen?
Es sind nur 13.
Nur 13.
Nicht mich wundern, ob die Leute es sehen, Behinderung.
Das so plastisch zu sehen, ist schon krass. Die Leute, die dann zufällig vorbeigehen, werden, glaube ich, sehr irritiert sein.
Es ist schon noch speziell, sich so zu sehen, wenn man sich nie so im Spiegel anschaut.
Tonight we're going to be talking about disabilities. We all have disabilities and imperfections in one area or another of our lives. For some of us, it might be physical disabilities. For others, mental disabilities, emotional disabilities, nature, nurture, experiences that we've had in our lives that are holding us back from reaching our full potential. And we say to ourselves, I can't be this, I can't do that. I have been dealt a bad hand in life. Let me tell you about Ehud ben Gera. Ehud ben Gera was physically disabled. He was what we would call a cripple. He was crippled in his right arm. His left arm worked, he was crippled in his right arm. And he was chosen by the children of Israel, by the Israelites, to bring a tribute to King Eglon of Moab. Rabbanit spoke about the boom and bust times of the nation of Israel, of the land of Israel. This was a bust time. We had been ruled by the Moabites. Moab was in where we call today Jordan. Remember, we passed through Moab as we crossed the Jordan on our way into Israel. Moab was ruling over the Israelites. We were paying taxes to them. We were paying tribute to them. Regularly, we would have to send the king bounty from the land of Israel just to appease him. And on one such occasion, the Israelites turned to Ehud ben Gera, who was from the tribe of Benjamin, and they said, we would like you to take this gift to King Eglon of Moab. Why me, he says. They said, well, you know how you appear. You know how you look. We want to show Eglon that we are humbled before him, that we feel low before him, that we would never consider rebelling against him. This way you will walk with your disability, and he will know that we are his true subjects. But listen to what Eglon did before he set out on his journey. He fashioned a dagger that was a double-edged sword, sharp on both edges. He placed it by his right thigh. And as his crippled arm would normally hang over, it hung over, hiding the sword. Meanwhile, he walked along to the palace of Eglon with the tribute in his left arm. Now, you can imagine, when you walk into a king's palace, nowadays you go through security, there are all sorts of metal detectors, pat-downs, these things that turn around, nobody knows what they do. But back in the day, they totally used to pat you down. They wanted to make sure that you weren't carrying any weapons, that there was no threat to the royalty. You can imagine how they saw this Eglon, poor fellow, limping along, his crippled arm kind of hanging there. And they said, yes, just let him pass. In he walks into King Eglon with his beautiful gift, tribute in his left arm. He hands it over to the king and he says, King Eglon, I have a message from God for you, but it's a private message, just for you. Now, we were always known as an Am Kadosh, as a holy nation, as a spiritual nation, as a nation of priests and prophets. And so King Eglon said, well, if this Jewish leader has a message from God for me, then I will believe him. And he sends everybody else present out of the room, not thinking to himself, come on, this harmless cripple, what's he going to do? No sooner had everyone left and the doors were locked behind them, that Ehud reached down to his right thigh with his left arm, grabbed the dagger, thrust it through King Eglon, who was a big, heavy-set man, thrust it right through so you could not even see the dagger. There was Eglon dying on his throne. Ehud saluted him, walked right out, closed the doors, locked the doors behind him, marched straight out and ran straight back to the Jews in Israel. And it was only hours later that the guards of Eglon thought that something was amiss, finally opened the doors to see Eglon lying there dead. For many, many, many years afterwards, we had that boom period, a period when we had our own sovereignty in the land of Israel, all because a man called Ehud ben Gera, who many dismissed as inadequate, was able to take his disability, his inadequacy, and transform it and become great through that so-called disability. How many of us go through life saying, well, because of my disability, I will never amount to much. I went through that terrible divorce, and now I will never have a good relationship. I was laid off from work, and now I will never be financially stable. I grew up in an abusive household. No wonder I messed up. I dropped out of school early because I had to support my brothers and sisters because my father died early. I will never amount to much. I can't have a good job. And we go through life saying, I can't, if only I had stayed in school, if only I had stayed in that marriage, if only I had good parents, if only I hadn't been born with a disability, if only I was born a little smarter, if only my parents had a little more money to give me to put me through college. But that wasn't the way Ehud ben Gera looked at life. Ehud ben Gera said, the Almighty has given me a certain lot in life, and he knows that the greatest success in life is the success that I will have through that. The problem, dear friends, the reason that we think that we can't succeed is because we imagine a mannequin that looks a certain way, and that we have to fit that mannequin. And if I don't fit that mannequin in whatever area of my life, whether it's physical, emotional, biological, psychological, then I'm inadequate. But maybe it's the mannequin that needs mending, not you. You see, our sages teach us, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba betrunya imbriosav. God never gives you more than you can handle. So if God has given you something in life, something in your nature, something in your nurture, some experience that you've had, then that means that God knows that not only can you handle it, but that is the tool you need to have the ultimate success in life. Let me tell you about Tony Melendez. Tony Melendez, when his mother was pregnant with him, she had morning sickness. At the time, she was prescribed thalidomide. It was thought to help morning sickness. The only problem was they didn't know at the time that these mothers who were taking thalidomide, many of the children were then born with gross deformities. Tony Melendez was born with no arms. When he was about 7 years old, he discovered his father's old guitar, and he said, Dad, I want to learn to play guitar. And you can imagine the rachmanas, the pity that his father felt looking at this poor young man with no arms who is now asking to learn guitar. And he kind of shook his head in sorrow. But Tony was a fighter. Tony never gave up. Tony persevered and said, I will play guitar. And many of you today would have seen videos of Tony who plays guitar with his feet, with his toes. He sings beautifully. He is a better guitarist than I, and I, thank God, I have fingers to play. He plays beautifully because he took what others would have perceived as an inadequacy and he transformed it to make it his greatest asset. I was recently in Trinidad, as you all know, and I was in the airport. And like in most airports, close to the gate, there are special chairs reserved for handicapped or disabled people. Only thing is, in Trinidad, it doesn't say disabled, it says differently abled. So I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I never heard of that before. So when I got back, I decided to research it. Now, I'm an academic, so I have a very powerful research tool I'm going to share with you this evening. It's called the internet. And I looked it up on the internet, and apparently way back in the day, in the early 80s, this term, many of you may remember, was more commonly used, differently abled. As opposed to disabled, it was considered more politically correct. But after a while, the disabled community said, how ridiculous is that? It's not as if you're calling everybody differently abled. Hey, we are all differently abled. As Rabbanit said, we all have our unique qualities. Only the disabled people are being referred to as differently abled. In other words, it's a silly euphemism for disabled. Just call us disabled. And we stopped using it here in North America. But I want to tell you, friends, according to Kabbalah, differently abled is the more correct term. You see, your neshama, your soul, comes into your body. Now, this is a certain amount of energy. It's the right amount of energy to fill the vehicle, the vessel, called the guf, the body. So there's enough energy to enter each of your fingers, each of your toes, your heart, your mind, just the right amount of energy. Now, sometimes, for whatever reason, the body isn't working the way most bodies work. And so that energy needs to go and flow into a different part of the body that is working, but it then works in a stronger fashion. So if you or I try to play guitar with our toes, good luck. But when Tony Melendez tries to play guitar with his toes, it works. It's a miracle. It's the miracle of the neshama, the soul, that doesn't find an outlet in his arms that he doesn't have, and so instead it expresses itself through his feet, through his toes. That's the power of the neshama, the power of the soul. And so when we call somebody who is disabled, differently abled, that's not some silly, colloquial, politically incorrect term. That is the correct term. If you cannot do a certain thing physically, if you are disabled in a certain area, then God will make you differently abled. God will make your neshama, your soul, shine stronger in a different part of your body. A more familiar example for all of us probably is Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was born blind, and yet one of the greatest pianists ever. To the extent, there's an online conspiracy, yeah, that's the internet again, online conspiracy that says that Stevie Wonder is not really blind. That's how good he is. How could he be that good? But we understand that he is differently able. Since his neshama can't flow through his eyes, it flows through his fingers. I want to tell you that each of you was created perfect by God. Yes, you may think you have imperfections. You may think you have disabilities. You may think that there are emotional issues that you're dealing with, psychological issues, physical issues. But God created you perfect. God knows that you can take those issues, those challenges, and transform them, become better for them, make them your greatest assets. If I would have your imperfections, I wouldn't know what to do with it. If you would have my imperfections, you wouldn't know what to do with it. But each of us knows what to do with our own imperfections. God gives us the assets, these skills to transform those challenges so that we're no longer saying, I can't. I can't as an excuse. Stop thinking that you need to fit that mold, that mannequin, because somebody else has a certain mannequin. No. Your mannequin is different. Your mannequin looks different. Your life, your perfection is different. Your job is to figure out, how do I take what my perceived challenges, my perceived disabilities, and transform them? That abusive house that you grew up in, that made you a stronger person in life. That divorce that you went through, God gave you that so that you can find the right person in life. That layoff you had from work, you know you've always wanted to start your own business. That forced you to start your own business. That health issue you're dealing with, I want to tell you about health issues because that's probably the greatest challenge in life. Our sages tell us that the Shekhinah, God's divine presence, rests at the head of an ill person. So anytime I go and visit somebody in the hospital, of course, I bless them that they should have a refuah shlema, a complete and speedy recovery. But then I ask them, now will you please bless me? And they look at me, what are you talking about, bless you? You're the rabbi. I might be the rabbi, but you have the power of the Shekhinah, the power of the divine presence that is resting right by your head. So if you are dealing with a difficult illness in life, and maybe there isn't hope on the horizon, here's the hope. Here's the way to transform it. You have been given by God a special ability to bless others. You need to take that Shekhinah, that divine presence that is resting by your head, and use it to draw down blessing to everyone around you, everyone you come into contact with. Blessings for parnasa, for livelihood. Blessings for nachas from their children. Blessings for the other's health. That's your special gift. That's your transformative power. My blessing to you all this evening is that you have the courage and fortitude to take your disabilities, because we all have disabilities, and learn how to transform them and make them your greatest assets. May your neshama shine forth in a revealed way throughout your body, throughout your psyche, throughout your life. And may you merit to fulfill your divine mission on this earth. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out this evening. This it wouldn't be possible without each and every one of you for making this a wonderful success this evening. What I want you to all do now is, I'd like everybody to pull out your smartphones. Pull out your smartphones, your cell phones. I know you all have them. Pull them out. You don't have them, okay. Those of you who have them on you, pull them out. Pull them out. All right, there is a little piece on there that says calendar. Open up that calendar. February 15th. February 15th, gentlemen, that's when we're next on, February 15th. February 15th is our next PI at BI. All right, this time, I hope you all enjoyed this evening as much as we have. And as I say, we're looking forward to really making this a worldwide event. We want to show that Edmonton is a leader in innovation, in Jewish education, in experiential education. So at this point, I'd like to have you give a huge round of applause. On behalf of Rabbanit and myself, we want to thank our experiential education people headed by Rabbi Glatt, Zisin, Friedman, and the keyboard. Steve Mariasine on the sound. I want you to know, we have many of our, most of our staff at PIBI are volunteers. You know, they've been working day after day. Many of them have been here all day long, just working on getting this prepared, getting this up and running. And it warms my heart. You know, I can't tell you all how much it means to Rabbanit and me that you're so dedicated to making sure that this is an amazing event. I've got a Rivka Leah there on the computer. Of course, it all began in the summer with Sarah's beautiful flyer. We have Jared that is being incredibly generous to us on the videography. We have Andrew that's not only been helping out today with the audio visual, here he has been taking the photos all night. Thank you. You're about to enjoy the food. The food has been prepared today by volunteers in the kitchen. We have Erica. We have Mary. We have Helen. We have Luba. We have Yuri. I know there were people involved with taking tickets. I know that Heike was involved with taking tickets. We have some of the young ladies who are going to, headed up by our own Millie, is heading up the waitressing volunteer staff soon. Millie, Sophia, Josie, Sheila, thank you. Lauren brought the tablecloths, thank you. And, I know that each and every one of you has made a great effort to be here this evening, actually I want to thank the Jewish Federation of Edmonton that is a sponsor of this evening's event. This couldn't happen without, there's quite a deal of investment that goes into this. This first one has been sponsored by the Jewish Federation of Edmonton. They apologize that they couldn't have a representative here this evening, but we did partner with them this evening. Many future events have been dedicated, a number of them over the next few months. If there is one that you would like to dedicate or dedicate in part, please do speak to me. But I thank you all for coming, for encouraging your family members, your friends to come. Please, you've seen it now. Each one is only going to get better and better as we up the ante. Please do come February 15th. Meanwhile, enjoy the refreshments. We're going to have a 15-minute intermission. Normally at PIBI we will kind of let it run a little longer for the light refreshments, but this evening, as you all know, we are going into a very important congregational general meeting concerning the future of our shul and the future of the Edmonton Jewish community. That will take place in the social hall. So at some point we will move everybody. Please feel free to bring your refreshments with you, but we will continue with the next phase of the evening's event in the social hall as presented by President Stan. Thank you all.
Just one last song. I apologize for holding you just another 2 minutes of your time and your voices. As the one who was singing tonight, first of all, it was an honor to be part of this event, and I really look forward to being part of the future events. But I personally want to thank tremendously Zisin on the keyboard and Michael on the clarinet. You guys did an incredible job. Let me tell you something about these two people. It's been such an honor, and it's been kind of intimidating, to be honest, because they read music like I read The Cat in the Hat. It's unbelievable. They pick it up for the first time. I won't tell you how many times we've gone over this, but it's not as many as 3. The last song, everybody on your feet. Let's get this one going. 1, 2, 3, go!
Thank you, everybody. I have to get the last word, and it's just to give a special thanks to Rabbi and Rabbanit. I mean, they put on just a spectacular evening. You're all as inspired particularly as we are. Thank you. I know they put a lot of hard work into it, and there will be more to come. And those who missed it, your friends who weren't here, please tell them to come next time. And to Rabbi Glatt as well, we've heard your voice, but now we know the man behind the voice. It's been our pleasure. Thank you.